Rotarian, senior Rotarians, Rotarians, my seniors here, there's still quite a lot of them. I find always very heartening to see their support and friends. There are a lot of topics to choose from. You keep writing about religion, history and all that. But I said I will not inflict on an evening the problems of the world arising out of the Greek financial crisis or out of the instability or whatever that happens in other parts of the world. This is an evening where we need to talk as Calcuttans, as the district governor had said. I am a diehard Calcuttan and find it very difficult to survive for so many years outside the city. And so let's start with this city. Let's start with this hotel. I'll just take you around, that's all. Do you know that the place where you're sitting was actually the first hotel in India, first recognized hotel in India, Great Eastern. And it was started as early as 1830s. First as Spencer's Hotel, which evaporated, and then by David Wilson's wine suppliers and purveyors, which he found was too big a name, and therefore he named it in 1840 after Lord Auckland. It became Auckland Hotel. Now this gentleman Auckland was actually George Eden. His family name was Eden, and he had two unmarried sisters, Emily and Fanny. He himself was unmarried, so that made three of them. And Emily and Fanny actually were more active on the social circuit of Calcutta. You would perhaps know them as the Eden sisters who built gardens very near. And in exercise of their powers over their only unmarried brother, they actually managed to dismantle a pagoda from Burma and install it there. This is the Eden Gardens. They were distressed with the state of health, Dr. Mukherjee and others were distressed with the state of health, and they helped set up a hospital, which was known for a long time as the Eden Hospital. This was after them. But while the sisters carried on with the family name, the brother went on, whatever he did was Auckland Square and all that. But the purpose of saying this is that we stay in the city of Calcutta. We know this street as Old Courthouse Street, but you've never asked the question, where on earth is Old Courthouse? What on earth is Old Courthouse? So let me move away from this hotel where a lot of drinking, a lot of love, bitterness, rivalry, smashing of bottles and glasses took place at these very spots. Because everyone who was somebody in Calcutta was seen here. And that continued well after 1860, when Calcutta was the capital of the British Empire. 1857 was a mutiny, and 1858 Calcutta was officially declared. 1860, Auckland Hotel changed its name to Great Eastern. Now, where on earth is Old Courthouse? You see, the first port in India is actually where St. Andrew's Church is. White speaking. St. Andrew's Kirk, the Scots insisted on calling it Kirk. They found the English to be extremely dominating. The Scotch contribution to Calcutta was perhaps, they claimed, to be more. We have Brand Street, we have Russell Street, these are all Scotch names. And they were picked at the fact that the English were hogging St. John's Church. So at the spot where you have the spire of St. Andrew's Church, right at the end, was the first port in Calcutta. There are barristers and lawyers here, so they will bear me out. It was known as a town hall, come dance hall, come port. It depended on which part of the day you attended it. justice in the morning and injustice at night. And it was a very beautiful structure. When I was at the British Library, they presented me with the original hand painting of the old court. I still have it in my office. And in fact, the Scotsmen, rather miserly, retained the foundation of that building when they built up. Now, why was it an old court? Well, there was a court of the mayor of Calcutta, which was wiped off. When power was separated and given by the Mughal or by the Nawab of Murshidabad, he retained with him the power of sentencing, that's the criminal powers. Finally, the British got so tired of him exercising criminal powers from Murshidabad that they dragged the court here and set it up near Chowrangi. The remnant of that court is Sadar Diwani Adalat, Sadar Fauzdari Adalat, Sadar Street. Sadar Street's court was dragged here. So the Mayor's Court, the criminal court, and lo and behold, the Supreme Court of India. The Supreme Court of India starts in the year 1773-74, and the Supreme Court is actually far ahead of the High Court. High Court comes about 100 years later. So that was an old courthouse. Now, why on earth did it disappear? Shirath-ud-Dawla was not happy with the way Calcutta was boasting, the English in Calcutta were boasting around. So he decided to bring the best guns that he had with French artillery, came up all the way to Calcutta and started smashing. He came in through Waitakkhana Sialda, causing the first traffic jam in Calcutta. He brings his troops all along, and we have this beautiful road. There are two parallel roads. One is called Waitakkhana, which is Bovada Street. Kolkata Street, and he brings his guns and starts blasting. The European rock court at that crumbled. They could do nothing to the fort of Calcutta. The fort of Calcutta began just after that, where you have writer's painting. It was basically a wall made out of chula, surki, gur, and bricks. The British could do nothing about it, and they had to blast it with explosives. And later on, he comes along and smashes that court. So there was the old court. Later on, with war compensation, that would become the church, and the Scots put their hand up and said, "You have the Anglican Church, we need the Scottish Church." So that's how you got it. And then this was the same hotel, before I leave it, where Kipling wrote his very devastating piece of Calcutta, where Queen Elizabeth stayed and Khrushchev, Bulgaria. More important, Mark Twain, same place. Now, coming back to the old fort, why was it named William? William, of course, didn't know there was a fort being named after him. William III was then the King of England, and it was built within 2 years of Job Charnock landing in 1690. It was built in 1692. Let me swing on to the other side of this tank, because that's equally important. The fort area had 2 rooms for the Governor General. He was feeling stifled. You know what that building was? Next to the GPO, you'd find red old buildings. The Presidency Commissioner and the Collector of Calcutta, that was the office of the Governor of Bengal. The moment the Governor was declared as Governor General, he decided that was too small for him. So he came on to the other side of the tank and occupied a hall that was known as Buckingham Hall. Buckingham Hall was made out of thatch. That's of thatch roof. And that is where he set up, beyond his budget, the Raj Bhavan, or the Government House of Calcutta. This was done by Wellesley, another very fascinating character, Richard Wellesley. Richard brought his brother along with him, and they took part in the capture of South India, that was Serinapatnam. But his brother went on to make more conquests, and one of the tiny ones that he won was the Battle of Waterloo, which explains the name of the road. And this gentleman, Arthur Wellesley, was declared Lord Wellington. So this is all the gift of Calcutta as we move along. And one of the best things that Wellesley did, they all did good things as well, was set up the first college in India, first formal college, Fort William College. And it was Fort William College where you had both Sanskrit, Farsi, English. The Pandits and head Pandits, these are names that you will not forget. Ram Bosu, people who are aware of Calcutta's literature, Madan Mohan Kalankar, and the head Pandit in 1841 was Pandit Ishwachandra Vidyashankar. So that is where they used to work. What was the salary? Well, I couldn't find out the salary, but I found out the salary of the Kerani, the clerk. He was paid rupees 1 for 1400 words. That's the payment. Now, where on earth do you get these writers coming up? Well, when the fort was smashed, that area was opened up. And a very enterprising engineer, perhaps like the district governor, decided to set up barracks there. And his name was Leon. Leon was anglicized to Leon, whom we call Lion's Range. He set up two buildings on two sides. One was taken over the stock exchange, Lion's Range, and the other set of buildings were bought over by Barwell and hired out to the East India Company. The East India Company had everything there, including a safe hostel to guard the morality of young writers. The young writers, the moment they turned up, they were accosted by the gentry of Calcutta, and among them was Raja Ramakrishna Dev, who made full use of their various proclivities at that youthful stage and started giving them loans and making them sign pieces of paper. So these civil servants, if you call them, started for the rank of writer. That's where you get writers' buildings. The next one was factor. The station where a factor stayed was a unit of trade. And do you know what the name of the factor's unit was called? Factory. Factory was never a unit of production, it was a unit of trade. And then merchants, you move on. So you come back to Calcutta, and one of the things that we left behind here was Fort William College. Writers' Building was designed on the ruins of the old fort in 1777. It was a Bata shoebox, very unimaginative. I have that painting with me. The fancy architecture that you get in front actually comes in much later. It comes in around 1821. The facade took another 70 years to build. Facade with Roman columns. This design became very popular among the imperial setup. Because Britain was then considering itself to be the successor of the Romans, the Greeks, the Romans, and everyone. So they needed to have gods, and gods not necessarily Christian gods, they were mighty structure. So they started putting up statues on top of Writers' Building. So you have Minerva, and then you have commerce, then you have agriculture, then you have health and all sorts of things. Because once the government got pretty wild with me and posted me near the roof of Writers' Building. And all I had to do was to see the backside of one of these statues. And there's a mansard roof. Now, government actually moves into this hostel and starts occupying it in 1877. This was done by Ashley Eden, another Eden. And he grabs this other street port and brings it there over. And as I said, this was how Calcutta behaved, how Calcutta was in those days. What constituted the heart of it? This great tank, this was the village of Kolkata. Sultanate is supposed to be somewhere between Lalit and Tolaghat. We have not been able to place it. Govindapur, incidentally, is very well marked in Calcutta. Take a walk, go outside Fort William. Every 100 yards, you will find a plate written, herein under the fort lies the village of Govindapur. That's where Govindapur is. So Calcutta, Kolkata exists through this water tank, and it soon consisted of the electorate, which continues there, the customs, the port facility, and incidentally the port went by a Dutch name before it became a port, and the Dutch name was Banshal. When it came out, there was a lot of trading going on. The East India Railway office, the railway office is still there. The Treasury of Calcutta, oh my God, I forgot about it. The Treasury of Calcutta is why they came from. They didn't come here for love and fresh air. Treasury of Calcutta moved around everywhere, and most interesting treasury was 2 buildings away from this. After Great Eastern, technically there was another building which has come up, and then you have the road leading to Bengal Lane. The next building which we have preserved is the Treasury of Calcutta. The Treasury of Calcutta was being destroyed by unimaginative bureaucrats, and all of us went and saved it at that time physically. Therefore, it's in a half repair stage. I suggest you take a walk inside and see what the Treasury building is. The one just opposite UBI. In fact, United Bank's chest was there. And as you know, till some time ago, you could see people handing cash there. That's a Treasury building. And as you move along, each building has history. Ladies and gentlemen, why I'm appealing to you, you can't love a city from an external viewpoint or from a structured viewpoint. You have to feel for it. You have to understand that the road on which I'm walking, the street on which I'm walking, is where there's dainty parasol ladies with high heels or whatever. And we're walking around. I mean, you could actually see them. In fact, I think at midnight they all come out. So you have the Treasury. Where exactly was Fort? I said Fort William was a wall that ran around Writers' Building. And if you want to pinpoint it, I'll put it, the first major bastion of the port where the GPO is today. That was shelled mercilessly by Shirag. And once its spot was cleared, it was ready for the Calcutta's post office. It's one of the loveliest buildings if you see it at a distance. And it has all the touches of the Capitol Hill of Washington. It has all that beautiful dome. It's a Renaissance construction. And you should go inside and instead of looking for stamps and all that, silly things, people don't use them. Go up and look at the colonnades. You feel for it. Come outside, you'll see brass plates. So I've talked about that, but it was built by Granville, the same Mr. Granville who built the Calcutta High Court. An excellent, I had some few architect friends when I came, I don't know whether they disappeared. This is the sort of architecture you leave behind for 200 years. Now, we are missing out on one thing, we are missing out on banking trade. We have a treasury. So the first bank was set up after the Kolkata Street. It was known as the Imperial Bank. From where you get the State Bank, and the State Bank seat is just to the end of this. State Bank, the first banking transaction, we were part of a district administration where you had a treasury chest. It's a beautiful way of management of chartered accountants here. So against 1 million rupees, you printed 1 million, 20% more. and 20% was put in treasury chests. The treasury chests with lockers were with us. So money that was in circulation was against gold. If you had to transport money from Kolkata to Dinajpur, all you did was take that amount of money, put it in the treasury chest and lock it there and tell Dinajpur to open that amount of money. We have seen this, those magnificent ones. So this is how it was built up. Now let me come to a little sinful area. I stopped at the St. Andrew's Church, and the building opposite there is Stephen Court, Stephen Building. It was named after Aragon Stephen. He was not an Englishman, he was an Armenian. Between that there's a road that leads to Lal Bazaar. Lal Bazaar, that building, was owned by John Palmer. Have you heard of Amar Bajar? Munshi Bajar? That fellow. He hired it to the Calcutta police. And opposite that was the jail and the gallows. This jail, Horingbari jail, would be shifted later on to where Victoria Memorial is. And Victoria Memorial, when it was set up, it had to be shifted out of Calcutta to where Presidency Jail is. That's why that jail is known as Presidency Jail. The next jail is known as Alipur Jail. That belongs to the district office. So you have two jails next to each other. Now Lal Bazaar was Lal for different reasons. It was one of the most fascinating places. It was a sinful place full of boutiques and known for its debauchery. Bars, taverns, and all sorts of enticing creatures moving around even before evening. There was a tavern called the Harmonicum Tavern, about which a judge of the Supreme Court had very stern views. This judge was William Jones, who set up the Asiatic Society. After that was the native quarters, Asaipara, which is Benton Street, and Chitpur, Chitteshwari. But let's get back to the British part of Calcutta, and let's not get lost. I mentioned about St. Andrew's Church. Let me mention about St. John's Church. St. John's Church, have you seen St. John's Church? Obviously. Have you entered? Made a point to go and see it. It's one of the loveliest churches, but it's not that old. The church that was actually set up was set up in 1690 in a thatched cottage. And after that, funds went in. It had a beautiful steeple. In 1737, Calcutta was shaken by an earthquake. So there were two churches, both of them lost their steeples. One was that church, and funds were required to build it. Can you tell me who was the greatest benefactor of the new St. John's Church? A very wise investor called Krishna. You don't become Raja for the heck of it. These things have to be negotiated. These things have to be negotiated, and you have to find your way out. And it was opened by Wellesley. Yes, it was 1774. But where was the third church? The third church was actually behind this building. It was a mission set up by Reverend Gyananda, and he went around begging for 2 rupees, 1 rupee each. That was Mission Row. The Mission Row also lost it. So this is, when you move around and you look at these buildings, don't look at whether it's white or blue or green or red. There are subjects there. I mean, you can't miss the paints, but you also don't miss the air that goes around with it. Now let me start winding up. We come back to Goldigi, and let me get into one of the main parts of the fort, which was just behind Council House Street. The next road as you go along from Old Courthouse Street, the first left-hand, right-hand turn is towards Mission Road. You know that. As you turn into Dalhousie or BBD Bagh, turn left into BBD Bagh, the road that leads along was a road that still goes by the name Old Fort Ghat Street. It was renamed as Hare Street. Everything of consequence happened in that little lane. And one of them was the post office. It was just a little distance from there. And that is why lawyers would know that all the chambers are in a little road, but still called Old Post Office Street. It breaks off from Hastings. Just at that corner was a building where Warren Hastings stayed. It was demolished and it's there. That's why it's Hastings, Kiran Ferrari Road, and your old post office. The old post office was shifted to the new post office 100 years later. But there, at that very spot, was Gasting Place. And the Gasting Place, have you seen Gasting Place? Just take a walk, not in this sticky monsoon, take a walk after it's all over, and you'll find lovely places all over. And this is where the All India Radio was begun at Gaston Place, the first broadcasting in India, Indian Broadcasting Company, 1930. What happened to the bank? The bank was much closer. The British had a typical solution. They asked government for funds, government said go to hell. So they raised the lottery. And from the lottery fund, that's along the Ganges, it was respondentia. If you wanted to go around the circle here, it was the Esplanade. You had both choices. The respondentia, it's a big name to pronounce, was made into Strand Road. Until they raised money to take over a house which was owned by Justice Hyde, just opposite Raj Bhavan. This building was taken over and was smashed. And on its foundation came up the Town Hall of Calcutta. Do you know where the opening of Town Hall is? Not the site that you see. The opening of Town Hall is actually in the north. So once you get into Gaston Place, you'll come across there. You'll get the steps leading up, and you'll see two twin staircases. That is the front side of the Town Hall. And what we see as a magnificent structure is actually the rear side. I will never forget the building because I got my first ticking off by the government for squatting there on the staircases along with Professor Nishit Rai and others, demanding that the Babus be thrown out of that building and that building be restored. I was gently reminded by being then Home Secretary, late Rotary that it was unofficer-like behavior. So that is the story of the Town Hall. And along with that, we complete a circle around where we are. Ladies and gentlemen, every building here has a history. It will take a long time to tell you all, but I have touched upon the main points. Great Eastern Hotel, the Treasury Building, Stephen Court, St. Andrew's Church and the Town Hall, Writers Buildings, GPO, then Bankshal, Kolkata, Eastern Railway, Hare Street, and Council House Street, and all the way up to Government House, Raj Bhavan, via St. John's Church and Town Hall. If you ever want, I can all give it in. It's very easy in writing. It's nothing extraordinary. It's just a question of how you feel about everything. So whatever you do, get home by 12 o'clock. Because 12 o'clock, the Brit ladies and gentlemen come out in their ekta gadis and take over. Thank you very much.